Introduction: visiting the Philippines gives you the chance to see something truly unusual. The Chocolate Hills are an extraordinary geological formation that you will long remember. They have long been a great attraction in the Philippines, being depicted in countless pictures and songs about the country. No accounting of the Chocolate Hills has been able to clarify the number of hills making them up, but the estimates are invariably thousands. The Chocolate Hills are certainly one of the most significant national symbols of the Philippines. These elephant grasses are called chocolate for a reason. They change their colors from green to brown at the end of the dry season. Local people also use the elephant's ear hills and the gigantic bats around them for food. Each year, the 1-kilometer distance from Chocolate Hills Products headquarters to the viewpoint is the venue for the international adventure. The Chocolate Hills in Bohol have awed geologists since their discovery. They are a phenomenon that scientists consider rare. The Chocolate Hills are very famous in Bohol and are featured in its provincial flag. They form a natural landscape covered in grass. It is conical. Descriptions of the hills suggest a fanciful appearance of varying chocolate mounds. The hills have since been declared the third National Geological Monument and proposed for inclusion in the World Heritage List. A dense group of these hills is found in the independent city of Tagbilaran, called Chocolate Hills Complex, and a scenic overlook called Chocolate Hills Tourism Complex. Background and significance. The Chocolate Hills, known famously as the Chocolate in the local Visayan dialect, are recognized as one of the National Geological Monuments in the Philippines, and also a Philippine UNESCO World Heritage Site. They are famously identified as the symbol of Bohol, visited not only by local tourists, but also by tourists from around the world. To Boholanos in particular, the significance of the Chocolate Hills is profound. They partly reflect the cultural identity of the Boholanos and contribute to their success in the tourism industry collectively. The Chocolate Hills are renowned in this regard. As national authorities dedicated to the conservation of such unique features, there is increasing concern about how these carbonate formations are best conserved for future generations to appreciate. Throughout the years, a number of legends and folklores that describe the formation of the hills have become part of local folklore. One states that two giants threw sand at each other in a furious tantrum for days and became best friends forever, while another states that Orogo cried for her lost love and formed these hills. Such folklore reflects the distinctiveness and cultural significance of the Chocolate Hills to the Boholanos. It successfully anchored these hills firmly in the hearts of the Boholanos, and so it becomes a fact in the consciousness that distinguishes Bohol from the rest. A deeper understanding of the changes now occurring in this carbon-immiscible storage ring is vital for evaluating the need to preserve it and for initiating the necessary geological process research. Geological formation. The formation of the Chocolate Hills starts beneath. A combination of at least two geological processes created the particular shape of the hills, known to geologists as karst morphology or karst topography. These processes are weathering and erosion of limestone by carbonic acid and karstification. The hills are covered in Pleistocene marine limestone, which was deposited as a single layer of conglomerate. This provides the clue as to how this particular landscape was formed. Apart from the hill itself, there are fossils of marine organisms within the rocks that date it to about 55 million years ago. The sediments at that time were being eroded and transported by fast-moving water. The water that flowed through the bay was clear, and the only nutrients available in quantity were the skeletal remains of the millions of coral animals in the bay. This means that silt was not abundant. There was only a rare occurrence of silt since the bay was not adjacent to any significant river system. This type of water actually encourages the formation of calcium carbonate rather than ferromanganese oxide. It is not common to find evidence of open caves, where internal cave systems are only short, and many of them are actually what they call vug cavities, or sponge work, where cave walls, ceilings, and floors are all sub-equal. This means that the cave is formed by many little interlinking channels with no clearly larger river passage. These small interconnecting channels, in turn, are connected to the larger ones by surface sheets of rock, called stratal, which are all interconnected. We assume that the hills are underlain by a very extensive cave system considering the number of collapses it has had. There are also at least 3 or 4, possibly more, cave systems overlaying one another, forming a sort of layers, and that specific rock is called a caving host rock. This is more prone to collapse because of its properties compared to the rest of the formations. Karst topography. Karst topography is defined as a distinctive landscape that develops as a result of the dissolution of water-soluble rocks, in which the landscape is characterized by numerous caves, sinkholes, fissures, subterranean drainage, and rolling hills. One of the most famous karst topographies occurs in the Chocolate Hills, a series of cone-shaped limestone karst hills that are present in central Philippines. The cemento-ophiolitic complex at the base of the Chocolate Hills consists of an uplifted olivine-rich mantle section overlain by serpentinized peridotite, which generates CO2 due to its seafloor deposition. Subsequent uplift and formation of the Chocolate Hills, as well as a lack of previous faulting, suggest that the formation of the Chocolate Hills could potentially be blamed on the stress and faulting generation south of the Bohol Sea. One of the leading visible features in karst topography landscapes is the several varying contours such as collapsed dolines or sinkholes, sinking streams, and caves. Such landscapes tend to have a very low albedo or reflective power when compared to the adjacent limestone karst. This medium to high range of karst hills that seem to convolute or overlap each other creates the reason why they were named the Chocolate Hills. The uniform appearance of the rolling hills in the region is indeed considered a unique geomorphic formation in areas with karst landscapes. These tectonic phenomena and incredible karst landscapes have contributed to the creation of a unique combination of hills and mountains in just a single area. Such habitats offer a wide range of environmental conditions and diversity, contributing to a rich terrestrial and aquatic ecosystem. A variety of animals endemic to karst areas are very likely to be located in the Chocolate Hills, with a wide range of potential microhabitats that can keep organic animals confined. It is really important to understand the karst landform to improve any conservation methods and to provide directions for further studies regarding its vulnerability and analyses of the biological and hydrological activities and environmental risk assessment. Number and distribution. The Chocolate Hills are an example of conical karst topography. This topography is quite rare within the geological world. Karst is one way that the underlying geohydrology is expressed, and in being so expressed, not only can we study the geohydrology and try to perfect methods to predict where mineralization of different economic importance might be located, but we can also study the processes and evolve improved predictive techniques. Apart from the universal interest in understanding landform evolution and, within the field of engineering geology, the interest in potential material solutions, karst has a unique feature. Karst topography is aesthetically beautiful. Many karst features can be used as or to enhance scenic attractions. The Chocolate Hills of Bohol Island are the most famous example of conical karst on Earth. It is the conical nature of the hill summits that gives rise to the beautiful shapes. There are 1,238 hills. One account says 1,268. Although they are called Chocolate Hills, in turning brown, it is the secondary vegetation that turns, not the underlying lithological surface. During the dry season, the type of vegetation colors brown, and so the summits of the hills change a little from present lush green to brown, and so resemble chocolate. Then in the wet season, the green covers the summits, and so the hills no longer look like chocolate. Across the hill slopes are bamboo shanties. Most of the shanties belong to farmers that work the surrounding paddy fields. The remaining shanties belong to the tourists. A new 5-story viewing balcony has been erected. The view across the hills is beautiful. The summits rise in a series of slight epochs of the water lens. In geographic terms, the highest point on Bohol is 830 meters. The base altitude of the hills can be up to 125 meters. The youngest formation episode occurred during the Plao Quaternary. The Chocolate Hills possess national and international importance as a scenic attraction. 3.1. Locations and clusters. The hills are found in the province of Bohol in the Philippines. They are located near the town of Carmen and are featured in the provincial flag and seal to symbolize the abundance of natural attractions in the province. The Chocolate Hills are a famous tourist attraction of Bohol and can be viewed from the Chocolate Hills complex in Carmen. The Chocolate Hills form a rolling terrain of haycock hills, mounds of a general conical shape and almost symmetrical. It is estimated that there are at least 1,268 individual hills, with a total of about 1,676. The Chocolate Hills in Bohol have been recommended as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The factors should focus on ecotourism, cultural, historical, and geological aspects if the Chocolate Hills are to gain this prestigious award. During the dry season, the dome-shaped, grass-covered limestone conical hills, which turn brown, transform the area into seemingly endless rows of chocolate kisses. The branded confection is the inspiration behind the name, Chocolate Hills. During the milky green, rain-fed wet season, the grass-covered hills turn green. It is still unknown what exactly causes this striking transformation, with researchers opining that the phenomenon is caused by the reaction of rock to heat. The Chocolate Hills complex has been declared the country's third national geological monument and is geologically part of the main Bohol karst region. There are at least 71 caves and a number of karst springs. The larger hills have 4 symmetrical corners, which make them look like women's busts. The most famous hills have been named Jack and Jill. The Twin Hills have been featured on postcards, magazines, and other local souvenirs since 2008. There are at least 60 other hills in the complex. At different short-range vantage points, we observed 3 more isolated hills that are not part of the clusters. 4. Legend and folklore. Legend has it that the Chocolate Hills are riddled with stories that often fall within the realm of local folklore and mythology. These tales say much about the kind of people who dream them, telling of a community that is gentle of heart and has an abiding affection for the risible. Save for the stunning beauty of the landscape, the richness of these stories, sagas that have been handed down by word of mouth for generations, is the main reason why visitors and locals alike make the 2-hour trip from Tagbilaran City to the challenges of Bohol and beyond. The stories bang airily off the hills, picking at myths involving star-crossed lovers, sorcerers, and legends of Genesis itself, shedding light, one too many, a chuckle or two, on the kind of people the Boholanos are. Woven into these myths and legends is the story of Arogo, a clever young giant and a strong and powerful youth in the green, lush mountains of ancient Bohol. And so the beautiful wife died of a broken heart, and Arogo cried in his tears a legendary number of tears, which from day-long skies streaked across the island, until the bouquet of his tears hardened into the Chocolate Hills of Bohol. Some say this is but a hogwash explanation, devised by imaginative tour guides and drivers to add layers to the attraction of the Chocolate Hills. They are fairly right, for there are many speculations as to how these hills were formed. Yet, the many different legends of the Chocolate Hills, each very different in its own way, serve as a preview of the creativity, imagination, and poise of the Boholanos, as behind the suggestions and the interpretable messages woven into their rainbows of fantasy. The Legend of Arogo. This is but one of the tales that has been spun around the Chocolate Hills. According to the story, the giant Arogo fell in love with Aloya, a mortal woman. The two were very happy together, but soon enough, so it always seems to go in these tales, a local chief fell in love with Aloya too. The chief, named Aliva, tricked the giants into fighting a battle, leaving Aloya exposed and alone. He kidnapped her to bring her back to his home. You may wonder why the mortals were bothering with the giants. Was Arogo not enough of a problem on his own? Let's not delve too deeply into whether or not this was a smart move on the part of the chief, because we're about to travel back to the giants. And the story says that Arogo searched everywhere for Aloya. But she had, in the meantime, been sick, and this weakened her condition. When Arogo finally found his love, she was dying. He was heartbroken, and on realizing that there was nothing he could do, wept bitterly. Consider for a minute how miserable he must have been in order to create a formation such as this. As with any story told over generations, however, all kinds of variations have come about, with the characters' names changing according to each different version, and the particular teller's preference. One variation involves one of the characters trying to drive away a philanderer, while another happens to involve the woman giving in to temptation rather easily. It is fascinating how each generation puts its own little spin on a story that is central to the culture of a destination. This is also why it is very hard to tell someone who believes in an age-old folktale that it's not true. These stories are the heart and soul of giants such as the Chocolate Hills. Ecological importance. The Chocolate Hills are typically seen as an isolated geological phenomenon. They represent a tiny fraction of the region's size. Each hill has a 50-meter diameter, and their numbers reach over 1,000. Judged from the perspective of the topography, the hills are a particular formation which, in combination with the surrounding environment, unique marble cave formations, constitute a lively habitat not seen elsewhere on Earth. These contrasting combinations have turned two otherwise unremarkable landscapes into some of the most important ecological sites in the world. The healthier an ecological system, the more it will generate niche environments, or mild refuges, where endemic and small specialized species can evolve and flourish. It is in this aspect that the Chocolate Hills and the nearby formations are so important. The vegetation in Bohol is in an extremely rich, unperturbed stage of development, and in Philippine forests where ingredients for the creation of soil are abundant. Anything from a stump to a rock will seed a tree. Nonetheless, according to estimates, the hills will take 300 to 400 years to recoup the topsoil lost due to the hill's deforestation. Unlike the forested flatlands, the Chocolate Hills have absorbed the geological effects of monsoons flooding runoff, at least since the end of the last ice age. Ecologically, the proper care of the Chocolate Hills is just as important as their conservation. The corroding limestone contributes hard, lime-free water to the river, while the soil on its slopes absorbs acidic water. Together, they moderate the acidity in the cave's waters, acid being the #1 factor that erodes limestone into caves. Flora and fauna. A sparsely vegetated mountainous karst region, the Mabane lowlands act as a natural terrarium for the general habitat of the entire Chocolate Hills area. They support a stable population of the only bird species, the Mindanao Turictic hornbill, a range of non-volant species, as well as a range of populations centered here. Wildlife and vegetation are marginalized on steeper slopes and areas of young, tree-covered forests as a hungry density of carabaos roam and graze. They are relegated to the arid volcanic slopes of caracoles, such as Mahungkor, to absorb the raucous attraction. The country's cemented grasslands can be enjoyed by traveling a short track through the heart of the lowlands. The lushness of the green earth and the enthusiastic traction of gravity combine to induce a state both ancient and modern, serene and surreal. In the absence of significant in-depth reports, there is speculation that endemism in general is not particularly notable because of the ongoing presence of large mammal species. The Chocolate Hills may have been subject to wraparound ice shields during the drier Pleistocene era. In contrast to others of the southern Philippines, subterranean refuges would also have been minimal initially due to the sea level depositional setting. Some birds, and the snakes in particular, have pockets of endemics, while populations of rats appear to lean towards endemism due to lengthy isolation. However, this hiatus in truly exceptional endemism enables the territories to actually perform the function of being a diverse rim-dwelling biologically, supported by adaptable bruisers, which sprawl over the perches of animal and plant life, irrespective of the niche it has innovated. Flora. With its selectively dissolved limestone of interstitial clay and quartz, making up a perched bedrock of crevices and crags, marls and ancient clay echelons, nourishing few dispersed patches of soils with eroded worse-than-thin acidity. The vegetation that survives in the nameless ruta of the Chocolate Hills waxes and wanes in niches across a range of the Zone 2 ruling grasslands, fernlands, and woodland, and the closely connected Zone Y. Good stands of luxuriant terrestrial dune grass with broad, spiraled-lived bunches are found on fine crustose marker limestone that typically forms slopes across the periphery of history-divorced gaps into the interior lowland hollows and craters. Adapted sedges and endemic herbs cluster beside the spinifex's collateral, if sparse, wildlife of moths and pygmy flying fox. Central community activities are beloved of impoverished Anisoptera leaf birds, Eurasian tree sparrows, white-breasted wood swallows, and yellow-vented bulbuls, who remain as year-round or local migrants among skinks, monitor lizards, and water crabs likely splotched along Route 8 in the area of Sibong and Tubigon-Baunan, with the widespread blackish chickens. Tourism and conservation. Geologically, the Chocolate Hills are considered fascinating. The local people benefit from them economically through tourism. These hills are some of the most celebrated attractions in the country. Each year they draw thousands of visitors. Unfortunately, mass tourism is said to be damaging the environment, and other aspects of local culture and society have been impacted as well. The problem here results from the total number of tourists visiting the area. To allow this quantity of travelers access and convenience, numerous pathways and paths to the top of the hill have already been constructed. As a result, while the land and hills might not seem congested, the environmental damage caused by these man-made pathways and infrastructure is invisible. There is a conservation group atop the hill. They ensure that no waste is thrown away. However, they lack the ability to monitor all the tourists heading up and down. To resolve this, a system is currently being developed that will allow individuals ascending the hill to be checked in via the computer, which will hopefully dissuade people from being disrespectful toward the environment and local people. In a series of meetings with the local government and the executive board, the provincial government and different international agencies want to prevent further erosion. In order to slow down the rate of environmental degradation, guidelines for those hiking must be followed and implemented to ensure the long-term security of the hills. In order to formalize this policy of conservation, they hope to limit the number of guests accessing the hills. They are also in favor of preventing cruising within the region. They are at the forefront of promoting sustainable development and conservation in the area. Tourist attractions. The landscape of the Chocolate Hills is one of the major attractions for the island province of Bohol. The 50-kilometer stretched region consists of over 1,000 cone-shaped hills to enjoy, and is included in the so-called Philippine eco-mountain and sea landscape. No visitors miss out on taking a look at the two most prominent viewpoints in the region, the Sagbayan Peak Chocolate Hills and the Chocolate Hills Viewing Deck in Carmen, situated 20 kilometers or a 30-minute drive from Tagbilaran City. Here you will find a small park, complete with the butterfly garden, man-made forest, and liquid sand pool. When enjoying the views of this mighty formation, don't forget to climb up to the observation area, where a 360-degree panoramic view of Bohol's skyline awaits you. You may also rent an ATV for the Chocolate Hills Extreme Adventure experience. Several adventures await you in and around the Chocolate Hills to better experience the falling and revolving hills. Helmets are optional, so brace yourself and get ready for an adrenaline-filled adventure on Bohol's most famous mounds. You may, on the other hand, journey through the Chocolate Hills by bicycle with a native tour guide, which is not only a fun and interesting way to experience the attraction, but also involves actually interacting with the landscape. The distance from the Tourism Development Center offers an opportunity for such, yet tour guides are lanterns in the dark for the tourist. Local tour guides narrate geotourism, cultural experiences, create environmental education, and explain conservation messages. Regular conversation makes an impact on the overall visitor experience. The reflection of culture and tradition in some local crafts at the parking area creates more things to see surrounding the Chocolate Hills, including souvenirs and eateries. Engaging in a culinary experience is increasing the number of tourists. Forbidden caves located within the region offer spelunking and, at the same time, an archaeological site, not just a delightful but exclusive tourism offer. One of the motivations to see the sites comes from those who have seen Chocolate Hills sites on social media and have become interested since then. Only a few studies have covered this monument. 7. Research and studies. Several research studies have been conducted on the Chocolate Hills. All the scientific explorations open the doors to the uniqueness of these geological formations. The most common method used is the geomorphological study of the spatial distribution and hydrodynamic rejuvenation. The bedrock hardness, lithology, rock hardness, and chemical weathering are important indicators for the karst process used to define the Chocolate Hills. Not only should the intrinsic processes in the environment be studied, but also the sequence of events in the formation of the Chocolate Hills. The sequence of events identified a tentative framework indicating that the formation of the Chocolate Hills and the transformation of ephemeral rivers on either side of the central depression have very likely been triggered by a relative sea level drop under a changing climate in the early Middle Miocene. Recently, a discussion paper presented a broader scope in studying not only the landforms, but also the ecology and biology of the Chocolate Hills. Research on the relationship between the landforms and ecosystems of the Chocolate Hills is substantial, especially in the fields of ecology and geology, and it has close applications and contributions to tourism, management, and protection of the rock formations. The research on the ecology and geomorphology of the Chocolate Hills raised the interest of the governing body to engage the scientific community in search efforts and conduct research about the Chocolate Hills. A scientific group composed of local and international scientists conducted a scientific prospecting of the Chocolate Hills, from Tagbilaran to Bilar, with the hope of identifying karst features and mystical spaces, with the intent of making a scientific, intrusive, and Earth imaging of the Chocolate Hills. It has opened opportunities for scientific research on the impact of landslides on the organisms that live and thrive in the Chocolate Hills. Part of this research effort in the Chocolate Hills seeks to understand how the natural Chocolate Hills developed and how they should be protected. Research in the Chocolate Hills recently addressed topics relevant to melt crystals in relation to global climate change issues in support of adaptation and climate change. The research aims to impact the melting of the rock, monitoring of the Chocolate Hills, conservation of the karst of the Chocolate Hills, and the relevance of the local community. Geological studies. A number of geological studies on the Chocolate Hills have been undertaken. Sediment studies amassed 49 to 50% calcium carbonate in general, with some silt added and a few other minerals. The clay was supposedly precipitated, that is, formed in place, which is of utmost importance for karst developments. More studies list sandstones and gravels as the most common deposits, along with conglomerate and sandy mixtures. Different ages are given for these deposits, from the Miocene to the sands of Bohol, 4 to 5.3 Ma depending on the study. Other studies have revealed more sediments, quaternary and subquaternary, i.e. coral rock and sand, than the Chocolate Hills. They provide a geological formation on top of these hills. However, no clear sedimentary age or features are presented. By contrast, the morphological findings suggest that the hills were formed by a volcanic eruption. Nevertheless, a geological survey found karstic features in the Chocolate Hills, prompting a discussion about the formation of the hills. A large part of Panglao consists of limestone with karst features. With hydraulic head on the mainland and a possible hydrological connection, it is intriguing to study the Chocolate Hills along with other similar landscape remnants worldwide. Studies on the soils of the area have served as an important inroad in providing an understanding of the composition of sediments at the surface of the environment. With results showing mainly laterized soils and low densities of soil types for the different landscape types compared to worldwide standards, conservation of the area receives a boost. Ground-penetrating radars on a gentle hill slope of the Chocolate Hills were used to test the applicability of new geophysical, semi-automatic, and background removal techniques for archaeological purposes. Preservation efforts. Several preservation efforts have been set up to protect the Chocolate Hills and its neighboring ecosystems. It is common to establish local ordinances in the Philippines aimed at conserving certain resources and preventing environmental degradation. Non-government organizations, inspired by the efforts of local governments and communities to safeguard the Chocolate Hills, have also stepped in. In most instances, they provide educational and livelihood assistance to the communities. Education, it is believed, can effectively drive conservation. One of the foremost challenges in preserving the Chocolate Hills is finding ways in which negative, adverse impacts can be substantially mitigated. The problem is that a lack of scientific information has rendered the creation of such strategies little more than guesswork. One way to effectively mitigate the negative impacts of urbanization and tourism is the promotion of sustainable tourism. Several case studies worldwide are in favor of community involvement. A study discussed the importance of community participation in small conservation areas, also in the Philippines, and concluded that treating locals as mere obstacles in the implementation is a recipe for failure. Another study discussed the development and testing of intervention models for collaborative natural resource and protected area management. 2 community-based conservation projects were examined as case studies wherein certain communities were directly involved. Field work and characterization and documentation of past and present conservation practices were conducted, along with other objective and specific activities involved in the creation of case study conservation areas. Conservation programs. There are certain ongoing efforts at conservation working to protect the Chocolate Hills. In 2014, a representative proclamation of the Chocolate Hills positioned the area under a class of protected integrated areas that might not be very adversely altered. The CHBPA is the lead operational team and would help develop ideas for potential new management strategies and forms through these conservation initiatives. The CHBPA has been concerned with the successful protection of the surroundings of the mountain, managing actions focused on soil erosion, waste management, and pest control. In addition, an experienced ranger was introduced to shield the area from outsiders. Research related to the CHNS has largely focused on the regional hydrology and the development of the terraces. In particular, Germigan activity and a very severe study of the area's interstate hydrology have also been examined. The CHNS is mentioned in books, even though the region itself can be seen exclusively in non-dedicated construction books. Presently, tourists do very little with it according to conservation work. Key beneficiaries of the outcome will necessarily be the local community of largely Bohol, who have been affected by the arrival of the site in local self-education activities and awareness boosting. Any interested volunteer or traveler involved in entering the list of sites with specialists, scientists, homeschoolers, and members of the Fair Trade Program can do so, even though most of their conservation-related work across the CHBPA to date has actually required research and corporate endeavors. Comparative landforms. The Chocolate Hills in the Philippines have been listed as one of the 50 geological sites that will blow your mind, alongside other mysterious natural formations, such as the Giant's Causeway and the Devil's Tower. It's worth comparing the Chocolate Hills with 3 such landforms that share common characteristics, despite being in 3 extreme corners of the Earth. The first is the Bungle Bungles, or Pumululu, in the southern range of the Kimberley in Western Australia, with their remarkable beehive-like sandstone domes. The second is the Tepuis of La Gran Sabana, a site highlighted by subcolumnar sandstone domes formed between 1 and 2 million years ago. Third, there are some subcolumnar limestone hills in the Satan province of Thailand, of which several hills have the distinctive top flat roofing. Due to parallel evolution, similar adaptation in plant species in particular, these sandstone and metamorphic hills on 3 land masses of Australia, South Africa, and South America are said to teach scientists about ancient geological and biological conditions. Such comparative analyses benefit international programs of ecotourism and biotourism, since world-class geological and biological landscapes with varying degrees of antiquity, flora and fauna in fragile or semi-fragile ecosystems. Management guidelines in the Great Smoky Mountains World Heritage Area have also been revised through such comparative geological studies. Similar landforms. Around the world, China is home to a stunning topography like the others. Look at the karst mountains. These natural staples found throughout South China have inspired artists for over 1,000 years, with some enthusiasts even becoming natural sanctuaries. We could also direct our attention to Cappadocia. Due to this site's popularity as a hot air balloon site, it is familiar to certain people. Cappadocia is well known for the stunning natural fairy chimneys that dot the landscape. Cappadocia's wine industry is well known for relying on these same rocks. However, today we will focus on the Philippines and the Chocolate Hills, which is the country's most famous portrayal of such a landform. The Chocolate Hills are nearly 1,000 disc-shaped hills sprawled throughout the center of Bohol, the island they sit on. There are over 10,000 chocolate hills in the geological complex. These structures are characteristically featured with wrinkled surfaces and consist mainly of limestones. Do any of these views and landforms look familiar? This is a karst landscape, and it is caused by the dissolution of soluble limestone. It is incredibly beautiful, as seen by the tourism and art surrounding it. The significant differences in flora and fauna make Chocolate Hills unique. Even though most of the area was cleared for agriculture, pockets of it remain conserved. Like the artists who gathered at the Karst Mountains or the Lodge Yana people today, indigenous populations tend to live by the hills and own similar tales surrounding them, emphasizing the hills' sanctity. Like many lands, conservation of the landscape has become a crucial topic. with many influential people rallying behind the establishment of a regional conservation center as the enabling institution for the site's conservation. Access to the area needs to be controlled to ensure that visitors are not converging and confined to area-friendly walkways. Future prospects. The future of this extraordinary place depends on many factors, a large part of which is the interest in conservation and the effort made in this direction. Earth processes and phenomena, as we now know, are always controlled by natural laws. That is why we try to make even the most recent results of field and laboratory research available to interested readers. Perhaps one day, new theories will be proposed and our present knowledge of various fields will change. But if the results of our work can be of use to someone at the present time, we will feel their value in the best possible way. We hope that the information program showing at what stage of progress prospective protecting works are will present many inspiring ideas for future cooperation from the scientific aspects. Of utmost concern to protect the natural beauty of Bohol's landscape are the various threats to ecosystems, such as habitat loss, invasion of species, accidental fires, and human-induced disturbances like illegal cutting or overgrazing. Moreover, climate projections suggest that regions like Ecoregion 5211, the ecoregion of the Chocolate Hills, are particularly vulnerable to changes in temperature and precipitation. The local karst landscape may be especially sensitive to the effects of any changes in weather patterns, with possible increased loss of topsoil through surface and subsurface erosion. The proper management of the Chocolate Hills in general, and the Central Cebu National Park in particular, relies on comprehensive socio-economic analyses, such as strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis, which aims to ensure that the most sustainable future is achieved for the region in consideration. Sustainable development, fostering. Sustainability and the welfare of the Chocolate Hills may require a global shift in perception. Rather than considering ecotourism or conservation as lesser uses of a natural wonder, such uses can be regarded as the preservation of local heritage for people's present and future use. This approach considers the present right of a local community to enjoy and protect a natural asset that has great significance to them. The goal of sustainable development, in this case, is to encourage management approaches that would balance the preservation of the Chocolate Hills, the adjacent and underlying ecosystems, and the local communities in a mutually beneficial manner. The future management of the Chocolate Hills may therefore swing between being a passive nature reserve or being actively conserved and presented through targeted eco-tourism ventures. Responsible tourism has the potential to reduce poverty by providing a broad range of employment, raising income levels, entrepreneurship, and household and community development. Therefore, the Chocolate Hills could become a key representation of eco-tourism in the Philippines. Appropriate policy frameworks can foster environmental and heritage conservation. Development interventions that are empowering, equitable, and environmentally sustainable tend to move from merely planning and targeting beneficiaries to more diffuse and indirect growth-related perspectives. This type of intervention supports community-driven initiatives that improve a region's living conditions by fostering beneficial external institutions and relationships. For the development of the Chocolate Hills as a sustainable tourist destination, lessons can be learned and applied from case studies in other countries worldwide. Conclusion. The Chocolate Hills are one of the natural wonders of the world. Located in Bohol, the heart of the Visayas, these hills have beaten any human creation. A truly geological masterpiece, one is awed at the perfect cone shapes that nature has created as its own work of art. As fancy as its name may seem, the Chocolate Hills fool you with a brownish color in the dry season. Its leafy content turns brown in the absence of water and gives an appearance of a huge spread of chocolate hills. The chocolatey feature sure makes it a sight to behold, and a mystery to ponder. There are many proposals that try to explain the Chocolate Hills formation, but a possible and seemingly acceptable one is the erosion theory, which suggests that the hills were formed by a chemical reaction. The reason why they are named Chocolate Hills is that in the summer, they seem to look like chocolate kisses as they dry up and turn brown. Study the Chocolate Hills while in Bohol. Summary of key points. In remote parts of the Philippine archipelago, curious knolls abound. Going through their life cycles, much like any hill, What the Chocolate Hills lack in clinical nomenclature, they make up for with idyllic charm. In the midst of the Philippine summer, the lush carpet of grass that covers the hills eventually turns brown, parched by the intense rays of the sun. Hence, these lovely mounds of vegetation come to be known as the Chocolate Hills. The Chocolate Hills are an unusual geological formation located in the Bohol province of the Philippines. This unique landscape helps give the island of Bohol its more natural character. As such a major component of the landscape of that island, the Chocolate Hills have been included in the Philippine Tourism Campaign's list of locations to take a good, hard look at. Key points. 1. The Chocolate Hills of the Philippines are geological formations located in Bohol, a province of the Philippines. 2. The hills consist of around 1,268 smooth, tufa-covered mounds, all conical in shape but varying largely in size, with the largest one 390 feet in height. Discover a natural marvel that transcends anything crafted by human hands, the Chocolate Hills of Bohol. With their perfect conical shapes and seasonal hues, these ancient formations are both a geological masterpiece and a cultural treasure, waiting for you to explore their magic. Immerse yourself in the legends, marvel at the breathtaking views, and witness the harmonious blend of nature and history in one of the Philippines' most iconic landscapes. Plan your journey to the Chocolate Hills today, and see why these extraordinary hills have captivated hearts and inspired wonder for centuries.